From right here in Jackson, Mississippi, the heart of the Deep South, right here in the African-American owned broadcasting studio. WeBelieveDigital.com, our own platform. And so it's critically important that in the African-American community, we control the narrative. I look forward to receiving opportunities to show and advertise your products for goods and services, and to move your brand along in this community. We're broadcasting live on Facebook. When We Believe Digital Podcast, go to Roku and download our app, and We Believe Global, with shows like this to bring articulate, intelligent conversations and dialogue to our platform. So I'm here to continue sounding the alarm. This is how the South is going to rise again. Good evening, and welcome to Socrates, Garrett Live. We're broadcasting live from right here in Jackson, Mississippi, in the heart of the Deep South. Jackson, Mississippi, where we have an abundance of crisis. We got a water crisis, we got a crime crisis, we got all kinds of crisis going on down in Jackson, Mississippi. But my co-host has said on our last episode that we have opportunities. He thinks that Mississippi is the garden spot, and it's the best place to be in this day and time. And we're going to get right back into that tonight after I do a little housekeeping. Now, if you're watching us live on Facebook, we want you to send us stars and share this program with your friends and family. If you're watching on WeBelieveDigital.com, we want you to hit the donate button and share this program as well. If you're watching this program on YouTube, we want you to go on and subscribe. We're trying to get our subscribers up on YouTube. It's important to us, so we need your help there. Go to YouTube, search for We Believe Digital Podcast. Enjoy the content that's there for you. But more importantly, hit the subscribe button. It'll help us monetize this program so that we can remain on the air and expand our coverage. Now, if you're watching us on WeBelieveDigital.com, our very own platform, you are in for a real treat, because there on WeBelieveDigital.com's platform, it's more like a network rather than a show, because you can go there and choose a topic of sports or inspiration. You can choose to listen to the internet radio. That's right. We Believe Radio has been launched, and we're now broadcasting great music all over the world. And the unique part about that, shows like this, where we bring some of the most articulate and responsive content any place in the world, then the next day you'll be able to hear this show as we broadcast it live on internet radio and also on our terrestrial radio station. That's right. We Believe Digital. It's going to bring you AM, FM, internet radio, broadcast studio, and the print edition with the Mississippi Link newspaper. You heard me right. We are a complete media company. We have the back office that does the recording studios with my good friend Kevin Jones over at 16 Bars. And all our filming and production is done by Primestone Media with Drika Chiffon. Everybody that I named or happen to be African Americans. And I'm so proud of that, because once again, we're demonstrating that we can bring cutting-edge technology. We're demonstrating that we can work together. We're demonstrating that we can create an economy. And all we need you to do is support. You know, black folk are the greatest consumers of the world, but we're going to have to start to create and produce. Now, I realize that in today's world, in today's society, business back in the day when I was a young man, we'd made money by brick. In today's society, our young folk are making money click by click. That's how the world has changed. It's a technology information society that we're in today. We're no longer in the Industrial Revolution that took place when all of the migration took place from the South. And everybody that could get a train or bus or hitchhike on the back of a pickup truck was leaving Mississippi as fast as they possibly could. At least that was a volunteer migration. We have to go back in time, and this show specifically deals with going back in time because this is the only place you're going to learn about your history. We go back in time where those Native Americans, and I have some problems and some concerns and some issues of how and why we call them Native Americans. They're Native, all right, but I don't know whether they choose to be called Americans or not. They were overcome, overthrown, and their land was taken from them. Mississippi used to be the home of the Choctaw Nation, right there in Kosciuszko, Mississippi. It was the home of the Choctaw Nation. Now, many of you have never even met a Choctaw. Many of our kids don't know anything about the Indian tribes that ruled and roamed and took care of the land in the great state of Mississippi. Mississippi has a wonderful history if it would celebrate its diversity, because we had more Indian tribes than anywhere else in the country. We had more African Americans in Mississippi than we had Europeans. My co-host, Dr. Henderson, says often that slavery could have ended in 60 days had blacks got together and decided that it would be no more. And I reminded him that the Indians got together and decided that it would be no more, and it's not many of them left. And so I don't know if it would have been a good strategy or not, but we would have ended 200 years of suffering, that's for sure. But we may not have been here as a race. And if we had been here as a race, we would have been allocated to some prison or some camp or some reservation, as they call it. You see, because a lot of you have never heard about the Trail of Tears. You see, Mississippi declared that there were no Indians in Mississippi. You had to be either black or white. That's right. And so many black families were divided because you couldn't tell whether they were black or white because there were so many mulatto babies in Mississippi until it was hard to tell, their ethnicity. You didn't know. And so when they did the reclassification, many of blacks got classified as white. Some got classified as blacks. Some families were split down the middle. The rest of them, those that didn't hide out in the swamp, and the swamp is on the banks of the Pearl River, where if you go into Lee County, Mississippi, and go to the banks of the Pearl River, you will find something there today that will just completely blow your mind. There are absolutely camps and regimes of white folk that are now on the banks of the Pearl River flying the rebel flag in tents all over the banks of the Pearl River. Well, that's the same land that my folk hid out in to keep from being marched off to Oklahoma. That's right, the Trail of Tears, when we marched everybody that was not either black or white out of Mississippi into Oklahoma. So a lot of lives were lost, a lot of pain and a lot of agony and a lot of suffering that went on when that occurred. But that's part of our history. And so whether our government wants to teach it in the schools and whether our principals and our superintendents are banned from teaching it, then shows like this with Dr. Henderson and I will bring you some information that you can't get anywhere else. That's kind of part of our Mississippi history. Now, as always, Dr. Henderson is a man, a renowned individual in the state of Mississippi and abroad. An individual that is not only educated, and that's why he is Dr. Eldridge Henderson, he's also street smart. He's street smart because he survived as a boy, having been born on a plantation in the Mississippi Delta. Now, when you were born in Mississippi, the poorest state in the nation, and then you happen to be African American on the west side of Interstate 55, in the 2nd Congressional District, you were born into the poorest part of the poorest state in the world. That's where we had places like Sugar Ditch. And we complain about the sewage problems that we have here in Jackson, Mississippi today, but up in the Mississippi Delta, it was a common occurrence. And they didn't complain as much about it up there as we have our folk complaining down here with overflows. I can't stand these overflows. I can't stand all of this stuff that's going on, this water crisis that we're having. And that's because we're soft. That's because we have forgotten our legacy and our history and how we survived and how we flourished when we didn't have any of those things. I remember when there was no water for washing, and we would have to take a mule and a slide and go all the way up to the nearest lake, fill the barrel up with water, take the mule and the slide and go a mile back to the house, and we better have a drum full of water when we got back there. None better not have splashed out. Don't if it did, you were going to get the worst beating you'd ever had in your life. You'll learn how to bring water back without wasting it. And so all of these things are ingrained into us as a people. So when you see our sisters and brothers in Africa carrying vases and water on their head and balancing it and walking without using their hands, that's natural to us. Because you learn how to adapt to the cruelty of your environment and your situation, and you still achieve. Maya Angelou said, we still rise. And we continue to do that regardless to the circumstances. But I'm going to turn now to my good friend and co-host, the most sought-after speaker in the whole country, a gentleman that has his own speaking tour, PCAP Media Group. And PCAP Media Group sponsors the L. Henderson Real News Tour. Let me refer back here to my notes. And the tour provides speakers for your churches and your schools and your community organizations. You set a date and call the PCAP Media Group at 769-257-5211. Or you call or email clu369@gmail.com. And Dr. Henderson will be grateful and honored to come out and bring the kind of message from a speaker that your audience will never, ever forget. So you reach out to him, 769-257-5211. And he gives me the opportunity. I'll come along and introduce him on that particular program. Dr. Henderson.
Yes, sir.
It's good to have you in the studio as always, and I want to get right into it. Tell the viewers all over the world how you roll with PCAP Media Group and what kind of work do y'all do over there?
Well, we do radio, television, and what I call internet programs, and we base our presentations on seminars and workshops, ladies and gentlemen, and we give real information. We don't deal with propaganda, opinions, and what somebody might think alike. We deal with facts. We have a research team that's going to research the history of that topic, and then we do talking points, and we highlight the most important things we think our audience should know or need to know, because we ask them to tell us what is your topic, who will be attending, how many will attend, and we want to know something about the demographics of those participants. And that's the way we design our topic in our speeches, and we give the real news about 30 to 40 minutes, and then we have a 10 to 15-minute question and answer session, and we always give answers, Mr. Socrates, that are historical and factual based. And I want to tell you right now, I believe you in your wrong field of choice the way you were giving that history a few minutes ago, sir. You should have been a historian.
Well, we all are historians because it was forced upon us.
I guarantee you.
Now, speaking about that, Doc, I did talk about a few things that were happening in Mississippi, but when I mentioned the fact that the 2nd Congressional District was the poorest congressional district in the world, and you happen to be born in that district on a plantation, how did you survive?
Man, I survived in what I call paradise. It was so easy to survive in that district where you didn't have anything until I didn't know that I had a hard time at all because we made everything except salt. Anything we needed, we could find it somewhere. Go out there and catch it or make it. And that was a very easy thing to do because that's all we knew, how to survive in a hostile environment without tears, without pain, and without knowledge of what's ahead across the river or across the tracks. We didn't worry about that. We didn't know about that. And we were basically happy and secure as we moved from day to day because most of us had food, clothing, and shelter. It wasn't the best, but we were not naked. We were not hungry. And we had transportation. I call it the twos, walking, sharing rides with others, hunting, fishing, killing hogs, making sure that we had the food we need. We couldn't buy it, so we raised it. And we borrowed it and exchanged what we had with others with what they had that we didn't have. Every neighbor in the community, every one of them was friendly with someone in that neighborhood, even though there were a few enemies here and there, little pockets that were in that little group that you mentioned earlier, the mulattoes, that didn't want to be black, couldn't be white, and they had to come and make themselves a little different than the others. But they were rejected on both sides. The white folks didn't want them, the blacks didn't want them around, and the white folks didn't want them because they felt guilty because everyone in the community knew who the fathers were in most cases, or the uncles, who the different relatives were that lived across the track, or who was in the plantation house. We knew all those folks. A lot of them are still alive today in their 70s, 80s, and 90s. And many of them have not changed their attitudes yet. They're still in that separate mode. But man, those folks now, especially the old ones, are suffering like the devil. Suffering. Their kids are gone. They don't look at them as important anymore. They're abandoned, and they're living on welfare, living on Social Security.
So you survived, and you didn't know that you were as poor as you really were. You became indoctrinated to the conditions. So when I said that you had sugar ditch, you affectionately called it sugar ditch over there, and that's open sewage running in an open ditch throughout the entire city. Is that what we should do? Should we indoctrinate ourselves that we're not bad off because of our conditions?
Well, we shouldn't look at that way now. We shouldn't look at that at all as what we should accept. Today, since we have internet, radio, TV, newspapers, other, we know better. And there's no need for black people and poor people to feel that they shouldn't have nothing less than what the elite have. The politicians, the major industry leaders,
the
big-time preachers.
The elite, is that inclusive of the mulattoes?
Well, the mulattoes, some have those positions of leadership, but in many cases, and you'll be surprised, if you look at some of the head people in the world, especially in America, a lot of them are so-called black. They have that one drop, but they've been passing for white since the 40s, 50s, and 60s. Many of them left my county, Hinds County, and some of those Delta counties, black as tar by name. But when they got to Chicago, California, and other places, they eventually end up white and married white. And now they come back, and I told you about 2 months ago how they come back to Mississippi now and won't even live overnight with their relatives. And we meet with them in hotels in Clinton, in Madison, in Pearl, and other places, and talk to them, and I talk to them real nice and hard and hard.
Well,
with a form of humor.
We thought after they left during the Industrial Revolution and they would come back driving those big Cadillacs, we thought that they were doing really good.
Well, we did, but see, that was the poor blacks that were not mulattoes.
Okay.
Now, those mulattoes not going to come down to places like the city of Pearl and Madison, Bolton, Edwards, because some of these people will know them. And that's why if they visit you, once they come down to visit, you better meet them in a hotel or allow them to come and see you at night. You're not going to have them in church now. They're not going to attend the church service because they know too many people will know them. They know too many people.
And these are your relatives.
That's right. We call them distant relatives, the other relatives. That's what we call them.
Well, Doc, I explained in my introduction that Mississippi reclassified all of its people, and some African Americans were classified as white. But we had the highest number of mulattoes, and this is an interesting discussion. Slavery was more difficult and harsh in Mississippi than anywhere else in the whole world. And yet, we had the highest number of mulattoes of any place in the world. So how can a man hate you and then father you at the same time?
It's easy. If you look at that offspring as a non-human, one that is not considered part of America, one that was not even included in the Constitution of the United States, nor the Declaration of Independence, you are not looking and thinking that you are dealing with a human being. He is a limited liability, but something you have to have in order to survive and keep your culture moving forward.
He's a necessity.
Had to be a necessity. And you tolerated him, but you hated him because you would see him in yourself. Some of my old relatives look just like their old grandfathers and their grandmothers and their brothers and sisters 30 and 40 years ago. Many of them had the same name. The Hendersons, the Warrens,
well,
the Andersons, and others.
All of those names came from the master.
Exactly, exactly.
So, you know, I'm a Garrett. Now, I don't know where that came from other than old Tom Garrett, which was a white salesman up in Madison County.
Was he moving around a lot?
He moved around a lot.
Well, that's probably why you got here.
He is, because he raped my great-grandmother. Now, I have to say this.
You heard that, of course.
No, I know that for a fact.
Okay.
I know that for a fact, because when I look at my granddaddy, he looks white. So now, unless you question whether or not he raped her or whether or not it was a voluntary union, I doubt that, you know. But if it was, so be it.
There were a few voluntary units, but most of them was because of economic demand and opportunity and force that if you don't do this, you are going to lose your job. You don't have to come back tomorrow. That kind of thing. Yeah. Or you're going to leave this plantation, boy, if you don't send that 15-year-old daughter, you got to let her work for my wife. Ooh. I'm telling you now, these are historical facts.
Man, it's rough.
Folks don't want to hear it, man. They don't want to hear it.
We're getting ready to go to a station break. Y'all need to stay tuned. We're going to come back, and we're going to deal with how we survived. How we survived in Mississippi in the 1930s, 1940s, and 50s.
And 60s.
And 60s.
That's right.
Y'all stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
Looking for the hottest content in the city of Jackson and surrounding areas? Check out WeBelieveDigital.com. Also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. We Believe Digital Podcast is here for all your podcasting needs.
Have you had your Earth Blend coffee today? At Earth Blend Coffee, we take pride in offering you the very best of beans across the world, blended and roasted to perfection, giving you superior quality and satisfying and flavorful taste. Experience the world in one cup with Earth Blend Coffee.
To order, visit earthblendcoffee.co now.
Are you
dreaming of becoming an entrepreneur, but you're not sure where or how to start? At Entrepreneurs Academy 101, our online program will guide you step by step on how to start and grow your own business. We offer courses such as how to write a business plan, how to create a budget, and so much more. Our online training program is designed for you to learn at your own pace, and there's no set order to complete this program. Because our academy is online, you have the choice to learn with a group, with friends, or individually. Upon completion of the entire curriculum, you will receive a certificate of achievement to acknowledge that you have completed the training needed to become a successful entrepreneur. So enroll today to design the life that you love. Contact your entrepreneur coach, Brenda Myers, at 601-672-0695 or visit our website at www.entrepreneursacademy101.com for more information.
We're back. This is Socrates, Garrett Live. We're broadcasting from right here in Jackson, Mississippi, in an African-American owned and operated broadcasting studio. We have the broadcasting studio here for you. You can come in and do your own show. You can do your own podcast, your own talk shows, and we'll broadcast that and push it out all over the world through all social media, through YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Clubhouse, wherever you want it to go. We can teach you how to monetize your program so that you can turn your hobbies into an income stream. Dr. Henderson always talks about that you need multiple income streams to make it out here in this world today. So come in the broadcast studio. Call us at 800-492-5186. Now, when we're not live with shows and topics like this, then listen to us on the internet radio station, where we have the best contemporary gospel that's being played every day, 24 hours a day. Listen to us. Read the Mississippi Link newspaper, a 29-year-old publication where the publisher, Jackie Hampton, serves on the board of the National Newspaper Association. So all of the information flows through We Believe Media Company. Now, if you're watching us on our very own platform, our very own network, we're a little bit different. You know, we want to compete with Facebook and YouTube with our own network. So when you go there, you'll see categories that you can watch. Hot Topics is one. Inspiration is another. Now, what's unique about Inspiration is that if you're a pastor and you're in Simpson County and you can't get your message out and you can't compete with the big boys, Ronnie Crudup and Jerry Young and C.J. Rhodes and Dwayne Pickett, if you can't compete with the big boys because you can't get your message out, but you know in your heart that God called you and that you're a better preacher than they are, we can help you get that word out. Let's produce your show here in We Believe Digital Radio. And We Believe Digital Broadcast Studio. And yes, we will play it on the radio. Now, what's unique about us is that we can have 5 shows going live at 8 o'clock on Sunday morning. We can have 5 different pastors rolling at 8 o'clock. You know, most mediums you can only buy one time slot because one person at a time can have that. But here with us, I'm telling you, we are ahead of the game. Here with us, we can have 5 pastors here, and you can toggle back and forth between all 5 of them and enjoy yourself on Sunday morning. You can go to 5 different churches without leaving your computer or your smart TV. Now, it's important that you know if you go to your smart TV and you go over to YouTube and you search for We Believe Digital Podcast, we will pop up on that screen and you'll see that our quality rivals that of CNN, anybody else's. So black folk in particular. Support this platform, support this media outlet. We're cutting edge, we're on our way. We're already negotiating to add terrestrial radio stations, both FM and AM, into our suitcase of products that we have to offer. And we're talking to Gary Richardson in Birmingham, Alabama, about having sub-channels on the TV station for We Believe Digital. And you know why they want us and why they're calling us? Because of the quality of our content and our production. So we know we're onto something. We want you to get on board and help support this program. Now, let's get right back into it. I was having a good time listening to Dr. Henderson and offering comments about black folks and how it was in Mississippi and back in the 1930s, 40s, 50s, and he said 1960s. And I recall in the 1960s that few things were going on. My last few days at Alcorn State University, a highway patrol was down at the university, and every black that came out of the dorm got beat down with that baton. And you knew right then that you were still under the throes of the master. Now, Doc.
Yes, sir.
Let's go back to how we survived. Now, you said we grew everything, and we raised everything.
Except salt.
Except salt.
Salt now. I want people to understand. S-A-L-T.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And so, how did you do that? I mean, how did you kill a hog?
Well, it's very simple. Now, I learned the hard way and didn't know it. When I was about 9 or 10, they had what we call the neighborhood hog killings, and every family had a day. And sometimes you would have 2 hog killings, especially on a Saturday. And there would be 10, 15, or 20 people there. The poor farmers killed 1 or 2 hogs. The big-time black farmers would kill 3 to 5. And the local blacks that were into what I call crooked-type activities, selling whiskey and doing other things, they might have 10 or 15. So they needed a lot of people to come and help. And they would get young boys like me and give us some of those hard tasks that they didn't want to engage in and make us think that we were doing something important. And for some reason, they selected me to be the hog killer. And I thought that was an honor to be the hog killer because everybody couldn't do it with the proficiency that you needed to get that hog up and on that pole so they can put that hot water on them out of that barrel and get those hairs off.
Hold it, Doc. Hold it right there. Now listen. Describe for me the process. Now, when you know you're going to kill a hog, can you kill him in July?
Oh, you kill him any time you want to kill him.
Okay, I thought you killed him in the fall.
Well, that was best time. But
because it was cooler?
That's right.
Okay.
And you were not on the farm working every day. You could have a little time on Saturday all the time because we had laid by, as you call it.
Okay.
Had picked the cotton and the corn and the peas, potatoes, and they were in the pumps and so forth. Then it was time to get those hogs ready in late September, November, and December.
So did you put the hog in a pen or anything, or did you just go get him out of there?
No. Well, it was the tradition was to designate the ones you were going to kill, and you put them in a pen and feed him continuously, 2 or 3 weeks. You put him in, he weighed 75 pounds. 2 or 3 weeks, he weighed 350 pounds. His face was about something like a 2 by 5. All he could eat is sleep and lay down in the corner. And they would get fat just like these chickens that you can buy now.
Because you couldn't move.
You couldn't move, that's
You get
right.
no exercise.
That's right. You know, you buy chickens.
It's kind of like what's happening to us as a people.
Doggone right.
Okay, we're eating and not getting the exercise.
No exercise.
Might as well be in the pen.
We are in the pen.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay.
And that's what happened. So when they get big like that, it was time to get them. And that's when the people will get the word to come down to the hog killing. Everybody had their special people that could do certain things.
So hog killing was an event in the community.
Most certainly. Most certainly.
Now, I understand that hanging a black man was an event as well.
It was, most certainly. They had the same thing. They had a big audience there at most of those killings. And they were usually the police, the preachers, the regular Ku Klux Klan, the business executive, all of them, their children, their wives and girlfriends. When they announced they were going to get one, they got one. out of the jails. I went to his house and got it.
Just go get you one.
They'll go get you one. Say, that boy got a problem. We heard he did the following, and we're going to take care of it. And people knew about it. The newspaper were printed, and no one ever, to my knowledge, got punished for it. They kept their political office, and we just went along with it, knowing exactly who did what.
Did black folk attend the hanging?
I didn't know. I never heard of any black people.
I'm glad to hear that.
Other than one man that could have attended, and that was the NAACP field director called Walter White. He was the head NAACP man that traveled around, and he was white as he was whiter than the average white person, so he could attend those kind of things if he wanted to.
How could he be white and be? How could he be white and be head of the NAACP?
Well, he was designated as black. He was sort of like Adam Clayton Powell. Now, he was whiter than Adam Clayton Powell. He was a congressman from New York, and he declared himself white, and the white folks loved him.
Because black folk love white folk.
More than they do themselves in many instances, because usually they have a little more money, a little more prestige, and a little more education in most cases, because they got support from their distant relatives in many cases.
Wow. Now, we transition. And because the conversations are so interesting, and we moved over there in terms of how black folks were treated at public hangings and all of that stuff, and it was just horrible. But it was a spectacle, and it was an event, and everybody came out to see it.
That's right.
Now, the same thing happened with a hog killing in the black community.
That's right.
That the black community never had no hanging. They never hung anybody. They never had any justice that they passed out on themselves.
That's a fact.
And so I never went to a hanging, never saw a hanging in reality, but I knew that was going on. Now, on the hog killing, it was this big event day. Now, Doc, a hog, as I understand it, is hard to kill.
Hard to kill, Doc. You got to know exactly how to do it.
You got to know exactly.
Exactly.
Because he doesn't have vessels, blood vessels. You can't poison him and kill him.
No, because you couldn't eat him. If you poisoned him, you had to kill him the natural way, with force, and do it quick, and be precise and exact.
So how did you kill him with force and being precise and knowing exactly what to do?
Well, some of the older men that had good skills, they would go in there and drop a rope around his neck and drag him out of that little dirty, nasty pen. And then there was one of the older men, a little older than that, he was probably just 60 or 70, would get a hatchet or back off an axe and pop him in the center of his head.
Well, how did you get him to stand still?
He didn't have to be standing still, because when they put that rope on him, those black men, those tough men, they would get down and put their knees around his neck and his hips and legs and hold him still. The man get that big old axe, pop him in the head, and then they'd call me or somebody like me. Elder, get on that boy, get on that and take care of him. And I would get over there, give me a knife about this long, about 18 inches long. Get him, get him, get him. Cut that throat. I cut that throat and stick that knife down as far as I could. You don't have it yet. You twist it, boy, twist it. I twist that knife, bam, about to hit that hard blood straight. Boy, they praised me. You got him, you got it. Man, I felt good about that. I didn't know they were teaching me to survive, Doc.
Teaching you how to survive.
That's right. 9, 10, 11, 12.
And teaching you how to kill.
That's right.
Because there's absolutely murder that was going on.
That was murder now. Murder for survival.
Murder for survival.
That's right.
A man will kill to survive.
He will do it. Women will do it. Other animals will do it. Everything that's alive will kill something to survive. No matter how bad your condition is, you want to live at least another day. You said just yesterday, if you had a chance to go to heaven yesterday, you would say, I'm going to let it go, Lord. I don't want to go today. No. Give me another chance. And that's where we were back in those days. We were able to survive, and we survived.
Now, Doc, we're going to take a station break, and we're going to come right back after this message, because, you know, there are terms that Doc is using and that we're having on this show. He mentioned the word laid by. Now, our children have no earthly idea what that means and what he's talking about. Our children have no earthly idea how to kill a hog. And there are plenty of hogs out in the forest today. We got to a place now where animals don't even get out of the way. I mean, I have to stop my car to let the geese walk over the natural trace because they don't care nothing about me. Squirrels running around all in front of you every day, they don't run no more. Rabbits don't run no more. Let me tell you this. I have hunted all day long in the woods looking for a squirrel and didn't see a single one. All day long, I couldn't find a squirrel. Doc, we're going to take this station break. We're going to come back because I want to know if you were able to find one.
Always. I could find them, Doc. I had to find them.
You had to find it.
If I didn't bring one back, I got to whip it. So I had to bring something back.
You're watching Socrates Garrett Live with Dr. Eldridge Henderson, one of the most renowned, most sought-after speakers in the country today. We're going to tell you how you can get in touch with him, calling PCAP Media, to get him to come out and speak for your churches, your community organizations, your schools, etc. That you can email them at clu369@gmail.com to get in touch with them, or you can call 769-257-5211. And Dr. Henderson will be glad to come out and share some of these heart-wrenching stories and talk about the experiences and how it was, and yet what we got to do to make sure that we don't go back to those days. We're going to a station break. You stay tuned. We'll be right back.
The Mississippi Link is an African-American female-owned newspaper with a trusted voice that is highly respected throughout the city, state, and nation. Our motto, keepers of the knowledge for people who speak the truth, since 1993. Link significantly influences the thoughts, attitudes, and buying decisions of its readers. Call us at 601-368-8481 for your advertising needs. If you would like to receive a newspaper in the mail each week, our annual subscription is only $52 per year. That is only $1 per week for you to stay informed regarding many stories that you can only get in the Mississippi Link. Sign up today at themississippilink.com and click on Home Delivery.
SocratesGarrettENT.com is a diversified firm specializing in recycled aggregates and crushed concrete. SocratesGarrettENT.com's recycled materials provide the construction industry with significant economic and environmental benefits by recycling clean concrete rubble into M.Dot grade rock materials. Recycled aggregates and crushed concrete can be applied to driveways, road construction, bank protection, parking lots, general bulk fills, and more. For more information, please call 601-896-0084 or visit us online at SocratesGarrettENT.com.
Welcome back to Socrates Garrett Live. We're broadcasting live from right here in Jackson, Mississippi, in an African-American owned and operated broadcasting studio. You know, we have a complete media company. We have the broadcasting studio, which is actually TV. We have the internet radio station, which is playing good music, contemporary gospel all over the world, 24 hours a day. We have the newspaper, the print edition with the Mississippi Link newspaper that has been in operation over 30 years. The publisher, Jackie Hampton, serves on the board at the National Newspaper Association and is a member of that prestigious organization. We have 16 bars under our umbrella with Kevin Jones for recording studios. All of your recording needs, reach out to us at 800-492-5186. We have Prime Stone Media with Drika Chiffon, one of the best filming artists in the country. Check out primestonemedia.com. Check out the quality of the projects and the filming that she's doing. All of those entities are housed right here under We Believe Media. We're in negotiations for our very own radio station, both FM and AM, and should have that deal done sometime before the end of this month. And so we are an African-American media company. We'll cut your commercials. We'll handle all of your social media. We'll post to Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, Clubhouse, wherever you want to go, we'll take you there. You can come in this studio and have your very own podcast show, your very own TV show. We'd love to have a sitcom. We'd love to start to do a show each and every week. Those of you out there with talent, you know that you're the life of the party. Every time there's a family reunion, you're out there and you carry the day because you're young and you're gifted and you are artistic and you know that everybody loves to hear and see what you have to say. Share your talents with the rest of the world. We're being seen in over 139 countries all over the world. We're broadcasting on Roku, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and our very own WeBelieveDigital.com. So you got to get in here and get your message out. If you're running for political office, you're making a grave mistake. If you're running for political office and you're not advertising with We Believe Digital on shows like this, then you are not taking advantage of a real media outlet that can get your word out. You see, our listening audience are coming from all over the country. Yes, most of them come out of the state of Mississippi currently, but we're being seen all over the world. And when we run our analytics, we can tell who's watching these programs. Now, you take a statewide office. If Brandon Presley, who's running for governor, or Tate Reeves, who's running for governor, are not advertising on We Believe Digital Radio, which they are seeing us up in Tupelo as well as in Natchez right now with the same degree of quality and clarity, then they're missing an opportunity. But we're going to influence what happens out here in this electorate. We're going to be involved in this process because that's what media companies do. Now, we've been having a great conversation. You call us at 800-492-5186. You email us at WeBelieveDigitalPlatforms@gmail.com. Get in touch. Now, we've been having a great conversation with Dr. Henderson, and, you know, it's designed to give history, but it's designed to also be entertaining. So the deal is, we were talking about hog killings and how it's an event that black folk came out all throughout the community. Big farmers, little farmers, medium-sized farmers came to the hog killing on that day. And Doc briefly described the process of the hog killing, and I want you to go on to every part of the hog and how it's used.
Well, let me tell you, Mr. Socrates, what a lot of people don't see about hog killing and education and training and responsibility. A lot of black people during that period had a second or third or fourth grade education when I came along. Had a very few high school graduates. Matter of fact, we didn't have a high school. I'll get to that later in our county. And when you got to be a certain age, you had to have responsibility. So there were some black people without education that will delegate certain jobs and skills to people, train them to do it, even better than they do today. Everyone that was in the plantation had a special skill if it wasn't nothing but the old grandmother or the mother. The old grandmother that worked for as a semi-slave until she was 70 or 80. Her job was to take care of the kids, teach the young ladies how to sew, crochet, and all that kind of thing. Talk to them about men and teach them how to use good hygiene. The younger mother was taught to raise the kids, work 2 or 3 jobs, and the young man was taught to work on the outside, learn how to hunt, learn how to fish, learn how to follow instructions good enough not to get himself killed, and raise his family. Believe it or not, back in that time, most of the black men had families. Even though we told you a few weeks ago, most of them had 2 or 3 sets of different families, but they had a major household, and they took care of their children. They did a great job at it. No education, no money, limited training, but they were very, very strong when it comes to working and delegating and allocating and pooling their resources so they can be self-supporting. A lot of your folks don't even do that today, that have these PhDs and master's degrees. They are not transparent. They're not responsible. They are selfish. They are cliquish. We didn't have that back during the day when I was a young man. And if you had one or two, they didn't fit in with the others. And that's why we were able to get specialists to come out of those hard situations. And many of those young men and women after the 1960s turned out to be all right in many cases. They knew how to survive, even though they knew they were not wanted, even by some of the so-called black folks that were in charge at some of the high schools and the colleges and universities. You know, they were cliquish. You know that. You went to one of them. And I'm telling you, but we learned how to survive. And a few of us, with the grace of God, was able to get out of those institutions, and people felt sorry for us sometimes and gave us jobs, and we were able to be self-sufficient and productive and raise families ourselves and told our family members, you got to do better than I did.
So, Doc, are you saying that a hog killing event is a training opportunity to train up young black folk?
Of course. Man, that helped me when I was in the war. That training I got when I was 9, 10, 11, 12, how to survive in adverse situations. Learned me how to survive when I was in Vietnam. And a lot of young men that were there didn't know about my training, wondered how I could always be cool and calm under fire, while I never did get excited and jump up and run and try to get in a better position. I learned to lay low with the flow.
Lay low with the flow.
That's right.
Now, Doc.
Yes, sir.
So when it was an honor for them to call you to cut the hog's throat.
That's right.
That was an honor, and you were known throughout the community as someone who was good with that knife.
Well, but see, the thing is, I didn't know I was being set up. See, that was a dirty job. The hog killer, the one that cut the throat, man, blood would jump out. I hate to say it, viewers and listeners, the blood would jump out of that hog all up your arm, on your chest, and everywhere, in your face and all. And you have to learn how to do it quick. I learned how to do it with the second stroke. But in the early days, I had to twist it around. That's when they would say, get it, boy, get it, boy. And sometimes when you hit something down in there, you didn't know anything about anatomy, science, or nothing like that. But if you did it 2 or 3 times, and you hit that thing and cut it, you got it done within 30 seconds.
But you were learning about anatomy and science.
That's right. They didn't even know it. Couldn't even spell the word. Didn't know nothing about it.
Didn't know it, but you knew where every part of the hog was located.
I knew the one that was working for me.
There you go.
I didn't know the name of it.
Yeah.
But certain things you could just feel down there.
So what was the next step after you killed him?
Well, once they killed him, we killed him, they praised me. And I would stand on the side, get myself cleaned up, and that's when them big, strong black men would get that rope and pull it up on that pole. They had a little teepee type deal, pull that hog up on that pole and put him in a barrel with his legs in a barrel. And
in a barrel?
In a barrel. And those women and other men, the weaker men, they would get that hot water and dash on that hog, and those men and women get those knives and cut that hair off and scrape that hair off him until it turned jet white. Now, you know, hogs are white.
I didn't know he was white.
Yeah, all hogs are white when you take their hair off and grease them down real good. When
you're trying to say something here?
No, I'm not. I'm just giving you the history of hogs.
Okay.
They are white.
Okay. Hogs are white. I didn't know that.
When you clean them up.
Okay, I'm learning that today. Hogs are white.
I'm teaching you something.
Okay. Now, so the strong men, and Doc, we got to make sure our children understand that men were strong. Black men were picking up cars. They would pick up a 3,000-pound animal and move him around. And they did that with sheer muscle and strength.
That's right, a 500-pound bale of cotton. You get 2 men on it. They taught them that during slavery. You didn't have 5 or 6 men pushing, rolling a 500-pound of cotton. You did that, man. You got a whipping. So you would get 2 men on it. He'd move that cotton from wherever he had to move it and put it in a truck or put it in the barn, by themselves.
By themselves.
That's right.
How many men would it take to do that
It'd
today?
take about 15 a day after they rest a while and drink some water and all that kind of stuff. And still they won't get the job done.
And still won't, and
No,
still
heck no.
You wouldn't get the job
Wouldn't
done.
get it done.
Man, I've seen it took 4 men to put some pulpwood. Pulpwood was big as logs. It took 4 men to put it on one black man's back so he could walk to the truck and
That's
throw
right.
it up high.
That's right. Without a machine.
Without a machine.
I've seen it happen too.
Throw it all the way up to the top
That's
of the
right.
truck and sometimes over the entire truck.
Now that's a job I didn't like.
Yeah.
They tried to get me trained with that, but I didn't fall for that trick. Man, I just couldn't handle that.
Yeah, it was hard work, Doc.
That was too
It's
much.
hard work. But you were the knife man that I've learned in this hog killing event.
Yes.
Now, Doc, what part of the hog did y'all throw away?
Well, we didn't throw any part away. Not any part.
What do you mean?
We kept all the parts, including the hair. The only thing that we didn't use, and this is a little graphic, ladies and gentlemen, we didn't use the blood. But every other organ, every piece of him was kept for some good purpose. You didn't have waste at that time.
Now let me go back because I never thought about that. You didn't use the blood.
That's right.
Everything else was used,
One way or the other.
but never the blood.
Never the blood. And I don't know why they didn't do it. I don't know whether it was biblical or what, but they never used the blood. Nobody had a bucket there to take the blood in and use it later. But everything else we used with pride.
Now, I believe that the black man created blood transfusions, the techniques of how you do that today for humans.
I've read something about that.
Yeah. Now,
Professor D-R-E-W, and some other.
somebody like
Right,
that, but he was
right.
black.
That's right.
Now, every other part of the hog was used. Did you use his feet?
Oh, yeah, that was the best part. The best 3 parts back when I was along was the feet, the tail, and the head.
Now, I've never heard of the tail.
Oh, you had to have that pigtail, man.
A pig tail.
Pigtail. Oh, that's the good part about it.
Doc, a pig tail.
Yes, sir. That's what you put in that dressing. You know, you make that dressing, you put that pigtail in there, a little of the pig feet, a little of the pig head. And if you had a little extra, you put a little ham in there. And you made that dressing and baked it real brown. Got you some good buttermilk, man. If you didn't have buttermilk, you got some of that water.
Where did buttermilk come from,
Well,
Doc? You didn't go to the store, did you?
No, we couldn't go to the store. Didn't have any money.
Where did
You
it come
made
from?
it. You
What-
made the buttermilk. You grabbed that old cow out there.
Oh, do you think our children could make some buttermilk
They
today?
can't make water. They can't do anything. They think they get all the buttermilk from Kroger somewhere or Walmart. They don't know anything about anything. We didn't teach them. We still don't teach them anything. A lot of you all don't want your kids to know anything like that.
You made the buttermilk.
That's right.
Now, we're going to get to these things as we go along. We don't have enough time to cover it all, but we have to enlighten our folk about how we survive so that we'll understand that we can overcome anything that's put in our path today.
That's right. Now, look at this. Think about it. I didn't even think about it until the 1970s. Now, back in those days, in the 40s and 50s and the early 60s, we had no lights, we had no running water, we had no refrigeration, and we had milk that would last for a whole week without refrigeration.
Well, how did you do that?
Well, you get the milk, you milk the cow, put it in a jug, it will spoil, that big old clour would come on it, and that's what you use. You take that off and make butter out of that, and keep the other and drink that and cook with it, put in your cornbread and so forth, and then you make your butter, and it'll last a long time without refrigeration. You put it in a ball, put it in a little bowl, and put it where you can have a little air come to it from time to time, and use it on your bread and put in your other food items, and last for about a week or so. No refrigeration whatsoever.
Well, now you did have something called a smokehouse.
Oh yeah, we had that.
Now, what in the world is a smokehouse?
Well, the smokehouse is where you put your meat. You kill hogs, you kill a cow, you killed a deer or fox or whatever you could catch, and if you didn't eat it, you could put salt on it and hang it up, and it wouldn't spoil. It'll stay a whole winter.
Outdoors in a building.
In a building, by itself.
How long would it last?
It'll last all winter,
What?
at least a year,
What?
or up to 2 years. And you can cut that good bacon, Mr. Sock. And it was, if you had it smoked properly, it'll smell so good before you cook it, a lot of people eat it raw. I'm telling you. I did it. I was a victim. I'm a victim of that. Didn't know I was doing the wrong thing.
Well, you were doing the right thing because you got to be a senior citizen. You're healthy, and your daddy is how old?
99. He turned 99 the other day.
99 years old, and he's still driving and taking care of himself?
That's exactly right.
Now, that's because you never had a hamburger and french fries.
Not until I was in my 20s.
Not until you was in your 20s.
That's right.
You didn't have no Taco Bell.
No, none of that.
You didn't have no Pig 5.
None of that. And every now and then, we got a Coke. Maybe once a month, a Coca-Cola once a month. You know, that kind of stuff. Now you can get it drink them all day.
All day long.
And that's why a lot of people got diabetes. They're obese. They have mental, what I call unwellness. They have all kinds of problems because we eat the wrong thing and don't even know we're killing ourselves. And it's all by lack of knowledge and by design.
By design.
By the politicians and the corporate leaders.
And high profitability on unhealthy food. Now, we've just run out of time.
Again?
Again, we've run out of time, but we're going to continue bringing these kinds of shows to the viewers all over the world. And we're going to deal with Mississippi history. We're going to deal with where we came from and how we survived, and then we're going to deal with where we're going. So we got to set the foundation, and we're going to get there. But we're just running out of time. So, Doc, any final words that you want to lay with us before we go?
I most certainly do. And I want to tell you this, Mr. Socrates. I don't believe you know it, but you've been doing something that has been very productive. You've been using what I call the Henderson Prioritized Corrective Action Plan all your life and didn't even know it. I don't know where you learned it from, but you have learned that if there's something out there you want to do, that you can do it. Because you learned somewhere that you're going to have a desire to do something different. So when you have a desire, you write it down. You make a little agenda. I'm going to do the following. Then you put a checklist there. I'm going to do these things, the following 5 things. Then you put a timeline on it, and people like you, Mr. Socrates, say, look, I might be good in budgeting and management, but I can't do allocations. I don't know about the technology part. Then you hire a manager or someone that's proficient to do that part. And then you say, now, I don't know whether I'm going to be able to evaluate what I do. So you go and find someone, and you talked about analytics, how you get someone to tell you who's listening to your program. Now, you've done all of this, and you usually are successful and didn't even know that you have a system that is designed to work. Some of the biggest business people in the world get in business and fail 4 and 5 times, even though you failed early in your life. But when you started using that prioritized corrective action plan, you started this media company from scratch with nothing. And now you international, 139 nations, and that's just temporary. Matter of fact, you're going to be going all over the world in less than probably the next 12 months in all media sources, newspaper, radio, TV, internet, on all the major streaming systems, YouTube, all of them. That little man from, Meridian, Mississippi? Farm Haven, Mississippi. Went to Alcorn State University. That's right. See, you might even be what I call a genius. You might be. That's right.
Okay.
But you didn't think so probably in the early days, because things were not clicking for you. They didn't click for me during the early days, but I learned to practice what I learned before I knew I was learning. You know, when I was on that plantation, when I was on that, what I call that system that was planned by others for me to be subservient, for me to always say, yes, sir, I can do that, thinking I was going to get some praise. Nothing but demeaning attitudes from others. Say, we got him now. We got him. We got that boy. But sometimes you learn to break away, and that's what you have done. Now you're independent.
Well, we are breaking away, Doc, because our goal is to move African Americans into mainstream.
That's right.
to economic positions and the quality of life that Europeans enjoy. And until we get there, until I see some black business with high rises, some buildings, and I see their trucks running, and I see the economy in the black community, Doc, we're so poor. We're so poor as a race of people, and you and I got to do something about that.
Now, let me tell you something. You just said something that was history. Now, 30, 40 years ago, you had black men and women with trucking companies.
You did.
You had them with high-rises, hotels, office complexes.
You did.
In Chicago, Philadelphia, Atlanta.
You did. Jackson.
Movie theaters, all kinds of things. You don't have it today.
Don't have it.
40, 50 years ago.
You don't have it.
Got to make it happen.
We got to find out why, and we got to correct it.
I can tell you why, and I have a solution to it, and we'll do that later on.
Next week, we're going to come back on, and we're going to continue this program. You've been watching Socrates Garrett Live. Remember, we need your support. Go to 800-492-5186 and call us at that number. Have your own shows on this particular medium. Watch us as we grow. Be a part of this growth. We need your help. I want y'all to stay safe, and good night.